Hello and welcome once again to the Far From Normal Radio Show. I am your host, Jay Moss. As always, I also have my partner in crime here, Mr. Randy Davis. Randy, rev it up, Davis. How are you doing this evening, Randy?
Yes, I've never been better, buddy. I'm excited about tonight, excited about the topic and the stories that are coming on with us from the documentary. Looking forward to it and hoping that grandbaby is good.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And of course we've got the bird talking with us again this evening, but we're going to rock and roll it anyway. All right. So we've got some amazing guests on here for you this evening. We've got producer John Paul Rice. We've got Joseph Lopez, and Joseph Lopez actually plays Rudolph in A Child's Voice, and also Angela Mavropoulos. And I want to make sure I get that name correct because it's very important, because I think this young lady is going to be a very big star here very, very soon, who plays Christy in A Child's Voice. Amazing, amazing flick. I checked it out. And without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and ask them to turn on their cameras and their microphones here. And I've got John Paul Rice, Angela Mavropoulos. I've got Joseph Lopez as well. And first off, I want to thank you folks for coming on this evening. I know it's very, very time consuming sometimes to promote some of these films and do some of these things and these live feeds and things like that. So thank you so much for your time. We greatly appreciate it.
Our pleasure.
Well, thank you very, very much. And I know that our people out there really want to thank you, because this flick here is absolutely amazing. And I watched it probably 2 nights ago, and it's been in my mind ever since. So it was very, very, very well written. Yeah, and I'm going to promote, I'm going to do some stuff behind the scenes and make Maria the co-host here so she can share the actual trailer here behind the scenes, because there's some stuff in that trailer that is just absolutely amazing and eye-catching. It's a lot of what we do. We use an acronym, probably very, very similar to you, John. We use what's called SARSA, story, anticipation, reality, surprise, and action. That's usually what we use behind the scenes to do a lot of the stuff that we do in our productions. And this really does a lot of those same things. It really elicits you to have a response. It really elicits you to pay attention, be on the edge of your seat to what's going to happen next in the film. Very fantastically put together. So I want to give you my compliments 100%.
Thank you very much. Edgar Michael Bravo, who's not with us tonight, is the writer-director, and he wrote the screenplay. And he wrote it in a very short period of time. This is the fastest production we've ever put together. It took us 3 months to put the whole thing together, from the script to shooting. Poured out of him. And it was inspired by a lot of people before us. So
yes.
Very grateful to have been a part of this journey, and to be able to be a part of a film that I think not only now, but many years from now will be studied.
Yes. I think it's going to be really, really studied in depth, because I think it was a fantastic way to put this together. What made your writer put this together in a way that maybe was kind of a sci-fi-ish little twist on things?
Right. Well, in our company at No Restrictions Entertainment, we have done 6 independent feature films, all dealing with different social issues over the last 10 years. We've dealt with prostitution, homelessness, child abuse, mental health, parallel dimensions, and most recently, human trafficking. And what we always try to do with our movies is to do it through the narrative, where you get emotionally involved with the journey of the characters. Our job as me as a producer and casting these fine actors, and his writing and directing abilities, is to create compelling stories that draw you in emotionally to care for these people. And more than just the subject matter or what's going on, but to actually care for them on an emotional level, so much so that you get invested in that story rather than everything that's going on.
Exactly.
And what that does is it allows us to go in this way with why Edgar and I both made this movie, was because it was so horrifying and so upsetting to learn all of this. We had to give some way that what we believe, which is love of human beings, love of self, and to have, and he deliberately put this in the story where you have a homeless heroin addict
Mm-hmm.
and a girl who's a runaway, both of them essentially runaways, and both of them, one a former addict and the other one a living one. And it was the road to redemption through love in both of them, both being honest with each other and protecting and caring for one another, which is what symbolizes the love and care and the strength and the courage that both of them have in the face of death, to then turn and try to protect the child, and the promise that was made to protect all children going forward. And so those are the things that, like, as a filmmaker, at least for me as a producer, as a creative producer, I get up every day and I, in spite of, hearing this horrific news, I'm able to say, I'm trying and believing, I'm following a belief that I am affecting something positively in this way, and to say what I know to be authentic and true at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that we're going to get in depth a little bit more with you a little bit later when we talk about some of the things with Hollywood and the spin doctors and things like that really go in depth with Hollywood. And there's a real dark side to Hollywood. And I don't think a whole lot of people know that, or maybe are aware of it, but we'll talk slightly about that. We don't want to get into it too much, but we'll get into that just a little bit. But I want to definitely ask, we're going to start off here with Joseph, and I'm going to ask you, Joseph, what are some of the things that really attracted you to this project, more than maybe some of the others that you may have had offers for?
Just real quick, I'd like to say I didn't get to see Angela at the premiere. Angela, you did such a great job. You killed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I just wanted to say that. For me, I'm an actor. So anytime you get an audition, that will attract you, right? You get work. So, so it was a pretty interesting part. I didn't have the whole script that I think in the beginning. I correct, John? I don't think I did. And so sometimes you can get in a little bubble in certain auditions to where you get a little bit of a piece of the character, right? You just delve in a little bit, you can feel it. And on my first audition with John, I read with John, we ended up with a little bubble. And I don't know what happened, but it's something you feel. And I felt a little connected to this guy. Now, Edgar is an absolutely incredible writer. And as a director, I have not been with a director like him. Somehow he's able to speak your language without you guys even trying to figure out what our language is going to be. And they gave me a piece with Robert Bernard, who's a Dutch banker. And this guy basically, I think, was the jumping off point for John and for Edgar in terms of trying to touch on the subject. And this guy was abused when he was young. And as you know what happens with abuse, you get abused, you get pounded by your parents, you're going to turn around, you're going to have your kids, and you're going to pound on your kids. And it's a vicious circle. And so this guy basically, he was a criminal who was younger. He made a lot of money. And in the process of that, he was lost. He was a hurt child. He was trying to fill this hole that he had with love, but he was filling it with material things, right? And love is outgoing. Love is not ingoing. So I try to capture a little bit, and this is what attracted me, is this guy then ends up being a banker, and he ends up trading currency. And in the process of trading currency, he gets hired by a guy who says, hey, look, you're really good at this. You're doing your clothing thing. You got the cars, you got everything else. Why don't you just take it back a step and just do this currency thing with these people that I deal with? And if you do, your life's gonna be a lot easier. The only thing is that you're gonna have to put your conscience in a freezer. Yeah. And like anybody, right? I think we've all worked with people. Hey, look, hey, you can make $500,000 a year. It's gonna be great, but you're gonna have to give up your morals. Yeah, sure, I'll give up my morals. I'm gonna give up my morals. I'm going to take the money and I'm going to stay who I am, and I'm not going to be affected by what's going on. But the reality is this guy got stuck in a circle that was dark and that was evil. And
Very, very dark. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Your
think that's
character,
kind of what it's about.
yeah, your character Rudolph, it becomes a very, very dark character in this. And it's almost somewhat of the child trafficker to a degree. So without giving too much away, Rudolph is the bad guy, so to speak, to a degree. But I don't know if it's the bad guy. Really, it's more of a circumference of someone who has just followed a very dark path for his own self-gain, maybe.
Yeah, and in the process, though, the really neat thing that Edgar and John wanted to touch here, though, is that there's an arc for this guy.
Yes.
And the arc for him is that when he gets sucked into this child trafficking, he's in so deep that he really can't detach from the people that he's with, but he hates what he's doing.
Exactly.
And there's a downfall with him. And I don't know if that arc I achieved, but to get back to the original question, that's what kind of excited me about this guy. Here's a guy who ends up getting stuck. We've all been with people like that. And I think his break.
I don't know if we're breaking up here slightly with Joseph.
When you're kind of your own man or own girl in your job, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. But what I was saying is that sometimes we get into job positions to where we are our own people, but then we have to answer to others when one thing goes wrong. And when that goes wrong, you get the wrong person who just jumps all over you. And I think that's what happened with Rudolph, with this group, is that they wouldn't let him go. They got on him and they would not stop. And that's why he wants to bail. He's got to bail. He's got to find a way to bail. But, eventually won't get the story away. He's got to fight that fight. So that to me was the interesting part about doing that. And it was a challenge. And, I just tried to work on stuff from my past to where I had misread people, or I got into doing things and thought I saw it one way and it was, and it felt good. But your gut always tells you when it's wrong, right? And we so much of the time don't listen to what the truth is within ourselves that we see. It's evolution. That's how we all survive. And in social situations, I think that's it. And Rudolph knew it before he pulled the plug. He knew it. He didn't act on it. And that really was his downfall. So I just tried to center on a few choices or substitutions as an actor where I'd been in stuff like that. And then tried to follow that arc of that indecisiveness of no, yes, no. And I channeled a kid actually that hung around with my girls. I have 3 girls. So this whole human trafficking thing, on top of that, being a dad, believe me, is really drew me into this as well. But
yeah, it is
when you
very scary.
mistreat people and you see that, it's a huge moment for you when you realize I screwed up. I freaking screwed up. You almost feel like you're responsible for the fact that happened. And I think that's what Bernard actually did. He realized, he knew his past. He knew why he made his mistakes. But I still didn't. Do you think, John? He was crushed to realize what he'd done. And that's why he had his nervous breakdown and everything.
Yeah. And I think it's a fantastic character arc, and it tells a lot about even maybe some people that are dealing with a lot of things in the movement, because you may have a situation where a parent may have done something wrong, and to have that realization that maybe this isn't the family court, maybe this isn't CPS, maybe this is, I did something that I need to admit that I have an issue and a problem with, and I need to take care of it. I think it really, really relates to the dark side of things, and then pulling away from that dark side. So I think it's a very, very great character arc. Angela, I want to talk about your role as well, because you did a fantastic job in this film.
Thank you.
Amazing. Christy is a character that I feel like was very, very innocent. What did you really do to maybe research this character and research some of the things that you touched on in this film? Because she has a fantastic character arc as well, I believe, because she comes from being in a situation where she's a runaway, that she's maybe in an abusive relationship, and then she breaks away from that and takes a leap of faith and goes out there and wants to help somebody. So tell us a little bit about that and what made you choose this character, and what research did you do on the role?
So when I was doing the research, I did so much research in general, just first of being a runaway or just child trafficking, even child abduction. I've covered the internet. My search history was horrible because I had no idea about any of this. And it was just, I filled so many notes. I tried to, like, the subtext just for her and her lines were crazy because she's very quiet, but there's so much going on inside her internally. And just that, trying to achieve that character arc of her trying to trust again and finding that compassion and just the love that she finds when she meets Tim. It was hard because it was the first thing that I've ever done. But with the help of Edgar, of course, and John, it was truly magical to try, like, actually find that in me to be Christy. And I feel that when I first saw the project on Backstage and I read her description, I was like, oh, this is me. She has this compassion, she has this vulnerable side, and I have that. And then I was like, yeah, sure, let's apply for this. And it's just, I connected immediately with her. And it was great.
Yeah, and I think the way that you played this character, though, it was very, very well, because she doesn't speak a whole lot, but in the parts where she's not speaking, it's almost like you can see that the wheels are turning in her mind of what's coming next and where do I go next, because there's so much intricacies behind a situation like this, and trusting somebody that you don't really even know, and starting to build a relationship where you just came out of a relationship that was abusive. So it's a great angle, fantastic. And you're doing a whole lot of other work, and we're going to touch into those. And Joseph, I'm sure you are as well. We're going to touch into those things here pretty soon. Maria, if you're there, if you can play that clip for us, it would be fantastic. I think you got to share the screen there. I'm sorry. There you go.
So do you know who that was shooting at you?
Stop, you little bitch!
The guy in the pickup,
You piece of shit!
he was my boyfriend.
So why would your boyfriend let you dead?
This man tried to convince my boyfriend to start kidnapping kids and sell them.
I understand. You fucking understand!
Top quality. What are you waiting for?
I said, if you fucking run, Bill will find you. His friends will fucking find you. They will hurt you.
Help me. I'm getting stronger.
Rev it up.
Oh,
Yeah, 100% rev that up. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Maria, for playing that, because that clip in a nutshell, right as it's playing, you can kind of see how exciting but still all encompassing. Just off the trailer, you can see how how touching this film really is going to be, but it's in a sci-fi way that kind of keeps you slightly entertained, but it kind of creates a whole new arc of things as well, because now you're having and it's very, very crazy. The opening scene, opening scene gets you. It's almost like one of those The Walking Dead kind of things where, you know, the girl on The Walking Dead gets killed right off the bat and you're like, oh, this is going to be crazy. And so it kind of really grips you right off the bat, because you're like, oh, wow, this just happened. And it makes you think, okay, if this is how the first 5 minutes of this film went, how's the rest of this film going to go? Because this is crazy. But it's very gripping, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat. But amazing stuff. And I think that there are several things behind the scenes, though, in both of your acting careers that I want to touch on really, really quick as well, too. I want to go back and forth a little bit real quick. Do you feel, I'm going to ask both of you, Joseph and Angela, on this one here. Do you feel that this was just the right amount of touching importance on the issue of child abduction and or trafficking? Or do you think that maybe the story could have gone more in depth or less in depth? Or do you think it's just the right amount?
Angela, you go.
In my personal opinion, I would add a few more subtle scenes just to tie in a little bit more of the child abduction. I know it touches on it, but that's my opinion. And it's so hard nowadays because people see films like this and they immediately criticize. And they're immediately like, oh no, this was so bad. Why are you opening this lid?
It's kind of like a Pandora's box. Yeah.
It is. And I'm the kind of person that I want to push that boundary to see what people are going to do, because it's like the news now, like no one really, really knows what's happening until that one person might put a video online or something, and then everyone gets rattled up.
Exactly.
And I think this film, if it had that little cherry on top for it, it would open up more. But again, at the same time, I do believe it was tastefully done for the viewers and the audience in general.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Joseph, your opinion on that?
I think, you know, it's funny is that right before we went on, you mentioned, I think it was Scarza or Scarva. What was the word that you used? We were talking.
Sarsa. Yeah, we use Sarsa.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the thing that is beautiful about Edgar and John is that they really do want to make movies about things that everybody may not want to sit in and feel and know, but it is freaking reality. And you don't make a lot of money doing that because people want to be entertained and they don't want to be in dark places. And these guys really pick strong subjects that no one touches. And with that Scarza, you know, as you know, there's only so much you can do to hit before you lose your viewer. So I you know, if these guys had a huge budget, this would be a completely different movie, right? And
probably, yeah.
A lot of what Angela's talking about, you could be creating all these scenes, you could be showing a lot more, but the key is that they're limited with the assets that they have to pull this off to deliver the message. And I think that the way they did it was tastefully done. They engaged through the love story with Angela and Joey, and that really was the driving force. I'm in as the antagonist, and you just touch and see that. And it's done somewhat in a mystical way with the love of trying to help the kids, trying to get help for who killed them. And then it ends up being with the girl at the end. I mean, I think they did a great job.
Yeah.
But with a lot more money, you could do a lot more. I just finished a film that was about a immigrant mother's travel from Guatemala to the border, and pretty current trend-wise. And they had a huge budget, and they could pull off a lot of stuff in that. And the journey that she had to go through with her daughter, and she gets raped, and she gets all the money stolen. But I think they did a fantastic job with what they had. And I think everybody, there were 600 people at the premiere, I think, right? Or maybe more. I mean, I think they did a great job with what they did. And Edgar is the man. Edgar knows where he's going. So calm. I mean, Angela, did you think, I've done, I don't know, 30, 40 films since then. And I mean, I've not worked with a director like Edgar at all. I mean, he moves you where you want to move. He does it in a way that he just kind of guides you by the hand. You don't have to think about it. You're just there. I mean, I don't think I'll ever meet anybody like him. And I hope I get to do more movies with him. But the one thing, this gets back to what attracted you, I will be friends with John Paul Rice and Edgar Michael Provitz to the day I die.
Yeah.
And because of the kind of people that they are and the kind of subjects that they tackle and the fact they don't sell out for money.
Great.
And
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm going to bring in Randy here because I know that Randy wants to touch on something that maybe you all are not aware of, because there's something happening in the state of North Carolina that you may not be aware of. And I kind of talked to Angela about this a little bit earlier, but Randy, if you'd like to tell them about what's going on in North Carolina, for sure, I think they'll be shocked and surprised.
Yeah, and it kind of plays into what you guys are doing big time. And it plays in, I mean, what you're doing seems like it's coming out at a perfect timing. As a matter of fact, with everything with Epstein being in jail and everything going on there. And if you hear the baby, I'm a grandpa now, so you may hear the baby.
Congratulations.
But the whole thing is, we live, and Jay was in the military at Fort Bragg. So Cumberland County is the next county over. It's actually probably a half a mile from where I am in Sampson County. You're in Cumberland County, but Cumberland County has the distinction. And this is why earlier I was asking about did you run across any of the stats on foster care children and the high rate of foster care children that are in when the FBI does stings on sex trafficking, child trafficking? About 85% of the children are in there. Well, in those stings. But in Cumberland County is not the largest county of the 100 counties in North Carolina, either in population, children, or size. However, Cumberland County has the distinction of being North Carolina's #1 in foster care placement. It also has the distinction of being #1 out of all 100 counties in human trafficking. And Cumberland County, just last month, in the last 45 days or so, they've opened the very first in all of North Carolina human trafficking court. It's going to be a court specifically for only human trafficking. And that's how bad the situation has gotten, because most people,
crazy.
You guys have seen this stuff, and maybe you know a lot about human trafficking, but I, for example, had no idea until recently about human trafficking. I mean, I've been around the planet for a long time, but it wasn't something that I got up every day. I'm going to work, I'm going to do my thing, and I'm thinking, wow, I really need to do something about human trafficking, because it just didn't hit, other than watching Liam Neeson in Taken or something. It didn't come across my path. There was nobody I knew that was personally involved in human trafficking. So with that, I wanted to ask you guys, and especially Angela there, because you other two there are like savages, but she's like a little, she's like a sheep thrown out there amongst the wolves whenever she's in her position that she's playing there. But Angela, and how do you, and I'll ask each one of you, but how do you study that without becoming sick? And what I mean by that is, when we do what we do and we go in and we're videotaping undercover, we're covertly uncovering things that are not pleasant. You're reading through somebody's case file, and there's stuff in there about vaginal swabs, about rape kits, about DNA, hymen in the 6 o'clock position. In other words, you're reading about real kids that have been sexually abused, and you're trying to figure out what's going on. And these are medical records, and they're sickening. They will literally make you wake up in the middle of the night and think, my God, that's really happening. And it's almost like you want to push it away and just say, I wish I'd have never known about that. I wish I'd have never heard about that, but now I can't unknow it, and now I can't stop what I'm doing. So Angela, how did you handle yourself in learning and doing it without actually falling into a depression or anxiety over what it is you're actually working with?
So I'm coming from a small island. We don't see any of this. And learning about it once I started on this film, at first it kind of was a smack in the face of this is real. There is this happening in the world, and it was okay, I have to accept this. I'll help as much as I can. And even to this day, after all that research I've done, even if I see a homeless person on the street or just someone in the middle of the road asking for money, I always bring change with me. I always bring dollars with me because I feel so bad for them. And it kind of, again, this movie has opened my eyes so much because of that research that I've done. And it was because I've never been through that. And there was one scene that actually was the hardest one for me personally, that I felt that it took me a couple of takes to do, and it was when Christy picks up food from the street to eat. And that, even though the burrito was still warm, it was fresh, it was just being that what if, and thinking of, whoa, what if this actually happens to me? Like you break it down as if, what if this is you tomorrow? I mean, it was hard. It was hard. But I found a good barrier between me and Christy that was easy to, like, at night when we finished filming, I was like, okay, I'm Angela now. It was just trying to find that click of, you're going to set, you got to put that mindset on and then take it off when you're off set. It was hard, but once you find that click, it's easier. And I always look back through, I made like a mini bio for her. So I would look back at it once we started filming again, just to get back into it, and then put it away at night. Don't even look at it, go back to Angela.
Yes.
But it was hard. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard at first. And then once I got comfortable with it was fine.
Yeah.
And I got a question for John there, because John, my God, when you were naming out the things, I think I only grabbed 5 of them: prostitution, homelessness, parallel universes. That one kind of threw me off. Mental health issues and trafficking. And those are harsh. I mean, I don't know about the parallel universe deal yet, but those are harsh subjects. I mean, did they not have any subjects that weren't so mentally disturbing that you could have made movies about, or is that the whole thing? That's what it is with you. You guys like doing stuff.
I enjoy the journey as a tortured artist.
No doubt. It's like, my God, you have no people that were beheaded or anything. I mean, those were gone.
No, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but there is a part of my own life journey in these films. Not parallel to the stories we write, but I believe as an artist that if you're going to be open and authentic, you tackle things that bother you. You tackle things that disturb you and move you in such a way that you say, this is what I know to be true and see right now, combined with this is what I also hope for, which is the love in the situation that you must find, or all of us will try to find. Because I believe until you shut off that empathy, or you shut down your heart and say, that's not who I am. Like, in other words, if I reject the truth about myself, then how can I be truthful about things that other people are actually living through and suffering through, if I have that understanding? And so these projects have changed me, but I look at it because there are 2 things that are true of every survivor. You endured such abuse at such time that you were the most vulnerable and defenseless in your life. And you lived through it. And so with that knowledge and that wisdom that you have, you can do something with it to change the trajectory, to come into an awareness or a consciousness that allows you to see things as more objective than you did before. And let that start teaching you through the learning and the doing of this film or this story or the research of this project. And then you feel it with your own feelings and the feelings of others as you bring them together, which is what gets me excited about making these kinds of films, is being able to find an Angela, being able to find a Joseph. And all of these people come together and they love each other and they work very hard together because there is a belief in each one of them for themselves uniquely different, but that all complement each other. And so I think the most powerful art comes from a place of knowledge and belief and following that belief. And so while I've had, and I will say that I've had depression type experiences through some of my films, not clinical in any which way that debilitated me, but for sure, I knew that it was correct to go down this path to confront the things that are meaningful in life, for the reason that I was strong enough already to once survive it. And I am tough enough and strong enough today to certainly speak out and say what is true.
Yeah, I think that's very important. Yeah, I think it really is very, very important because when you're going through these films, you're seeing a lot of, especially when you consult afterwards here with a young lady that we talked about off screen here, Melissa. We say Melissa. I say it's Melissa.
Melissa.
Honeybee. Honeybee Zarkarius, and she was on our program in the past. She is an amazing young woman who works with a team of people who hunts down a lot of these pedophile rings and human trafficking rings, and tries to bring a lot of them to justice. So it's very, very important when you're hearing a lot of these things and you're getting some feedback from a lot of these people who are doing that type of work. What is the response in your mind? Because I think from my understanding, this was on the edge of you starting to promote the movie is when you started hearing from people like Melissa.
Yeah.
So what are the things that kind of brought this whole thing to focus that made you realize, wow, I didn't even know what I created here?
Yeah, this is a very good question, because somebody asked me the other day about, knowing what I know today, would I have done the movie? I would have. I want to say I would have, but I definitely did not know the risk and the danger that I was personally in. If certain things didn't continue the way they're continuing with these mass arrests and Epstein and whatnot, then I would probably have to find a way to get out of the country at a certain point.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. And I would have, if you had told me that 2-3 years ago, I would have been like, I don't believe that. But knowing Melissa and what she's been through and other people, it's very serious when you, I don't go after the predators themselves. I'm just shining a light on this issue and saying who's behind it, where's the money, and why is there a network?
Yep.
And why are all these powerful people in business and government blackmailed? Why are they allowing this to happen? And the bigger issue was, how can we have people in our trusted institutions running corporations and representing us when they do this to children?
That's a great question.
What else will the banking system and the Wall Street bankers do? What other horrible things are they doing? If this is what they do to children, what other things? I think it's just, I'm going to use my voice And this time, because it's important for myself and for all of those kids that have yet to be loved, that deserve our love, deserve to be held and cared for. And I do it for all the people who have come before me, the courageous people who have also given their lives, who have risked their lives, and for my own sister who saved my life when I was a child. She stood up in front of the shame and the abuse, and she wouldn't let her little brother get the same thing. So I find all of those people, no matter how flawed they may be in their own personal lives, to have found a commitment within themselves to speak up about what is true, what has been going on right in front of us. This has happened to parents. These are families getting ripped apart, torn apart, children whose lives are being destroyed. Their childhoods are literally being destroyed. There is no love given to any of these children. And the fact that they have not killed themselves is the sign that there is still hope, because that means that there is a love inside of themselves that they will not betray in spite of all the odds. And I just think it's very important that we do everything we can. And I am very proud of this movie, and I'm proud of every single person involved with it. And I hope it leads to more conversations, more movies, more discussions, and raises the consciousness to where we come to a point where it's an avalanche of public support for new laws of transparency, new laws to protect children, and to put checks and balances in place that cannot be abused anymore.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic what you just said, because I saw another interview that you had with another former film producer. And Randy and I kind of pointed this out to Randy, and we watched it today a little bit. And I think one of the most important things that you said in that interview was that we need to have solution-based answers to these problems. We can't any longer have groups that are just bitch and moan sessions. We need to have groups that are working together on how do we get bills passed that protect these children? How do we stop the human trafficking? How do we stop the abuses of a family court system that maybe is not giving equal liberties and equal rights to both parents? How do we do these things to where CPS and Sean McMillan, I want to mention his name because Sean McMillan, fantastic guy, an attorney out there I believe he's in California, won an actual case against CPS for the right to lie case. So CPS was trying to lie in a case, and he actually won against CPS, which is almost unheard of. So now we've got situations here where CPS may be lying, and what ends up happening a lot of the times, like Randy had mentioned, we have situations where the CPS will take these children, move them into a foster care system, and the foster care system starts reacting in a chain reaction to put these kids in a human trafficking type situation. And so we've had those, we've seen those, and all of a sudden the kids go missing and we don't know whatever happened to them. There's been a few small programs that have touched on parts of those things. I just watched a movie called The Tall Man. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but that was one of the things, all of these kids going missing out of a town, those kind of things. And you start to wonder when you add it up with a film like this. And I want to point this out because a lot of people don't know this. You put your own money into this project. This isn't something that Hollywood has come out and said, hey, look, I'm going to fund this. We're going to give you this big budget and you're going to be able to do this with it. No, these people put their own money into this project. They believed in it so much. So thank you for that, John. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you all.
And let me ask John something real quick. And this goes to, in that one interview I saw today, John, you went into the analogies where it's the elephant and the blind men, and the blind men are feeling of the elephant. And I'm like, that's exactly right. Everybody's going to have their perspective of what's going on as they hold the elephant, or they hold his trunk or his tail. And yet every one of them are right, but every one of them are wrong at the same time. You know, it's their perception, and that reality's there. Well, because of what you just said about transparency, this is what has happened here. And I kind of understand what you're talking about when you say recent arrests and things going on kind of make you feel safer, because they came after me. Believe me, they came after me, and I had no idea. I had no idea what retaliation meant, and I was warned about it before I started writing, but they did. But what I'm seeing here is this: when you say the blind man, there are things that are going on that most people have no idea they're going on. They have no idea that they're happening, and they're politicians. We have a North Carolina senator here who his father used to cut our hair. I didn't know he's a farmer. His corporate logo is a coon eating a watermelon. Now, I can tell you that's racist. If you don't know that's racist, a coon laying in a watermelon eating it is right. But that's where we live here. It made me think about the migrant situation. So what did this guy do? He came out and they introduced a bill called the gag bill. So whistleblower gag bill. So if I filmed on his farm, and believe me, he was sued by the Farm Workers Union for $4 million. Herida is the one who did it, and he lost because a guy died over there. Okay, and there's a lot of migrant things going on over there. But we can't. If I filmed there, he wouldn't get in trouble. I would go to jail and be fined for filming on his farm. So on the other side with the human trafficking, the CPS, the children thing, anybody that's been in these courtrooms knows this. You're going to hear these. You can go to get records of your own child or any other case, and they're going to tell you, we can't give you those. Well, why can't you give me those? Because they're confidential. It's my child, even when it's your child. No confidentiality issues. So what it leads to is there's no transparency. When you said transparency, so we're all running around not knowing we're feeling of the elephant. We're not knowing that we're touching not a tree, but a leg of an elephant, not a rope, but a tail of an elephant. So the reason I'm saying that is this: what do we have to do in order to wake up the people that there's no way they're going to wake up because we can't get enough information out there? And just like you said, when you're dealing with people like this Epstein and the guys that are around them and the subject matter that you're dealing with, you and I both know they will off you. I got 24 cameras around my house, and I'm loaded for bear. And we're in the middle of nowhere on a farm. And I'm just telling you, that doesn't make me feel like I'm protected. But if they were to do something to me, there would somebody get the film of it happening to me. That's how. I don't want to say I became paranoid about the whole thing, but what do you say to the people out there that they may be holding a leg and they want to make sure if they come out and it turns out to be not a tree but a leg of an elephant? What do you say to the people that are afraid to come out, or how do they come out? What made you feel comfortable coming out, or did you just say, "Oh, I don't give a shit. I'm going to do it no matter what happens to me"?
It was a calculated risk. I mean, I wasn't putting anybody's life in danger by making the movie because I knew that we ultimately would never put a film out there that was going to cause, like, we were never going to go up against Hollywood with this movie. You understand what I mean? As a statement against Hollywood or a statement against anything. Yeah, that's why we did the supernatural aspect of it as opposed to a documentary. Because a documentary, you'd have to pull in facts and names or try to editorialize a little bit to kind of protect the anonymity of people. But this way, we just took, well, it's a fictitious story that's based on some real things. But to your larger point, for the people that are wanting to come forward, I think that right now, they're going to handle the Epstein case at a federal level, which means that all the co-conspirators are going to be rounded up and charged as well, then it's a shakedown from there. You have according to Robert David Steele, there are 49 other Epsteins in the United States that are all intelligence assets. This is Wendy, I can't remember her last name right now, but it's in the Mint Press, did a 2-part piece on the history of Jeffrey Epstein, which goes back over 100 years and ties into all of organized crime and mafia, into government, into Hollywood, the Bronfman family. This is all open source. So I guess the key is, do you want to stir the hornet's nest any more than it already has been by the law and the public disclosure? Or do you go to trusted sources of people to gather up evidence so that by the time, and I will tell you, I have a district attorney that lives right next to me. She has seen an influx of human trafficking cases come through here in LA. So they are preparing the courts for this, the full and total prosecution of the major players, which are the organs that finance it. And so it's not to say wait your turn, but you need to come forward at a time that is opportune to capitalize, like the Me Too movement. You being out there telling your story is important, but justice will not get done by being public in this way, because it telegraphs to the perpetrators that you're coming after them or want to leverage something against them. And that, as Melissa understood, once you pick one of them off, you become a target of others, because they know that it's only another moment away before someone else outs them and comes after them.
That's exactly right. I think we've experienced a lot of that stuff in this movement as well, because we've got a lot of people who want to come out with stories on their cases, but there's a time to do that and there's a time not to do that. And we tell a lot of people here, while you're still going through your case, do not go public. It is going to hurt you, because it doesn't matter what happens in this part of your case. Let's say, for instance, you've got a family court case and then they're coming after you saying that you're delinquent on child support. Okay, they could come after you. You go to the press, you tell them all this stuff, you tell them all the facts in your case. Maybe you get public opinion swayed on the child support issue, but guess what? Down the road, they just go back and they give the kids to the other parent. So,
Yeah,
I mean, that could end up hurting you. Yeah.
Yeah, you have no way of defending yourself, and in a system that is in a very, I mean, we've gotten this way because of years and years and years of this crap with complicit players on all sides of it, including
Yes.
lawyers. And it's not just all bribes. Some of these people are in on it too. So the idea that, the idea of what we need to do, the bigger question is, how do we get this to a point where people get so upset that they can't take it anymore, but do it through peaceful measures of solutions, right? That was the overall. The national level is the consciousness dialogue, right? It's the news. What people are doing today is for, I'll say, 3 years since, but we're in I guess the bigger way to look at it, I kind of how I see it is, we're in a post-WikiLeaks Podesta email time where people by the millions worldwide dig now and dig and dig and dig and dig and find all the connections to the money and the associations. And of course, there's a whole bunch of rabbit holes and speculation and people who try to capitalize on the fringes, but the core data continues to be refined and processed, and then more new information comes in. And so you start to put the whole picture together. That's why really open source intel is the way for disclosure, because people don't stop looking when they find true facts in this data to then start trying to make connections and to create a bigger picture. And really in this time going forward, the thing that I'm most hopeful about is with our technology. We're going to be able to have an established database of information that's only going to continue to be refined and grow over time. And that means it's a reflection of consciousness as more people come in and contribute with proven events. So I'll just, without going too far into this, there was a lot about Epstein and his island online for the last 3 years. And everybody was talking about it. And most of those people were dismissed as conspiracy theorists by the hundreds of thousands or millions.
Mm-hmm.
Today, he's in the news. And in overnight, in one day, he went from being an online conspiracy theory to a fact.
Yep.
And all of those people that were talking about it now have connecting points. And all the people that dismissed them as conspiracy theorists among their peers and their friends and everybody else, or the people that didn't want to deal with it, are now listening.
Exactly.
So this is what I'm saying is it's not, there isn't a clear strategy of if we do this, 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 and this, then all will be fine. But as we continue to pursue the truth, both of fact and ourselves, and keep speaking to a larger point of those things, more and more people will become aware over time where events in their own life or at the national or global level establish a new baseline of knowledge. The Catholic Church and pedophilia. There is no question anymore.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah,
100% great points, because what you're talking about is those people who were dismissed as conspiracy theorists, who were actually putting viable information out there that could really pinpoint a lot of the issues with pedophilia and child trafficking and those type of things. They did it, but they did it, the people who really are now being looked at as no longer being conspiracy theorists really were the people that held themselves together, held their lives together, actually used rationalization and logic and thinking, and not these far-fetched, way out there thoughts and ideas, because that really relates to the movement as well. Yeah. We have a whole lot of people that are going through this particular movement at this particular time that are believing in some type of sovereign citizenship issues, going to the court, filing bloody affidavits, those kind of things. And those things will get you in a whole heap of trouble. And we try and keep people on a path of logic and reasoning, and filing with an affidavit that would be more along the lines of, hey, this is what has happened, what has transpired in my case, here's where I am, here's a plan of action, these type of things that really a court would say, hey, look, maybe this parent wasn't such a bad parent after all. Maybe they have their stuff in order. Maybe they had a mental issue with depression or anxiety, but they've taken care of it. Maybe they have an alcohol issue, but they've taken care of it. Those kind of things really are going to bring children home to good, loving, fit parents. And that's what we want to see. We don't want to see a lot of these people out here who are being completely irrational, stating that this is my constitutional right to have my kid, even though they put their kid in harm's way. Right. Those are kind of the things that we're looking at within this movement. Is you've got a lot of really good, solid people, but then you've got a lot of the people that are intermixing and intermingling with those people who may not have been fit parents. They may have been something in their background that really CPS should have taken their kids. Really, and in all actuality, there are some situations that are like that. We see them over and over. And Maria says irrational thinking concerning CPS children trafficking will hamper stopping it. Absolutely will. She's 100% correct. But I think a lot of the things in this film in particular, and it kind of brings me back to this with our actors, what type of impact has this film really had on you? Because obviously asking John, and he's had some fear, obviously, but what type of an impact do you feel like this has brought on you as actors and playing a part of this type of a movie?
Angela.
Um, the, it's interesting because the biggest impact was that it opened my eyes, for sure. And I hope the movie as well impacts others the way it has with me. And I feel safe to say that it has, since I've actually gotten people come up to me after they've seen the film and they're in tears because of what topics have been talked about.
Mhm.
It's a hard question.
Yeah,
It's
because I
just,
think it's good because I think you're saying it really has brought awareness to people and they really connect on an emotional level, correct?
yeah. And they find, especially with the characters, there's a way to connect with them. Even if they haven't been in that situation, there's still a lot of empathy for them. And that connection is so, so strong. And it, like the lady was in tears. So
Right. Yeah, go to you, Joseph, for the same question. What type of an impact has that had on you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's had a personal impact. I mean, I'm not in danger in any way, shape, or form. Maybe Randy's bird's gonna come at me or something. I think beyond that,
He's gonna
I'm pretty
get it.
good. I think what John's up against and what he does and Edgar did, that's a whole nother ball game. But no, I mean, I have 3 girls, man. So, and I work in Mexico City. I see a very heavy social caste system where the rich are rich, the poor are poor. There's nothing in the middle. Those who are poor can't get anything done. Those who are rich can do just about anything they want. And I'm not singling Mexico as that it's horrible, but it's a better analogy to see that than it is, let's say, here in the United States, I think. And it's still visible here, but I mean, I've seen it for a long time. And I think Randy made the comment, when he started talking about human trafficking, like, I didn't know about this. We just don't want to believe that there's that much evil out there as human beings. I think we all believe that we're good people. And I studied martial arts with a guy who headed in Ohio a serial rapist SWAT team. And very early on in my life, especially with 3 girls, and he had a girl, he said, "You have no idea what is out there." And just in that sense, and what's going on with the human trafficking again, I just don't think we realize it. We're too busy. We're in this world trying to support our kids and everything else. We don't think it exists. And the funny thing, I don't want this to be in a bad analogy here, but jail handles pedophiles really well.
Yep.
Their court system is pretty straight up and pretty quick. And
I agree. And let me ask you this, Joseph. I want to ask you something that's killing me to ask you, because you guys you're artists, you're actors, okay? And that's like another planet for me, because you're the artist guys, you're the artsy fartsy guys. You can go be Hannibal Lecter during the day and go home and play with your 3 girls. I mean, that's odd to me. And y'all have to have this sense of reality to be in reality when you're home with your 3 girls. And then you got to be a devil like you have to be in this movie. And what keeps you guys going and keeps you sane when it's like you're living one life today and you start another movie tomorrow and then you're another guy? How do you manage that? What makes that happen?
well, what I like to say real quick is that we are all artists. John is an artist, Jay is an artist, and you are an artist. How do you go do and try to investigate and find the stuff you want to do and expose what you want to expose, see that stuff, and then go home and be with your family? It's the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think art, we're all artists in different ways. And I think all art has to do with is just being passionate about something, right? So, but how can we do that? I can tell you how I do it. If I could go play Hannibal Lecter and then go do a comedy and then do something else, I'm in freaking heaven.
Wow.
I'm 6 years old and I am playing. I'm playing. And
He can do it.
having a blast. But if you did have to play seriously the horrid things, you are right. And it is tough, but you got to learn how to leave it home. And it's hard to do. If you got to go deep and dark in your method, it's hard to do. But we all do it. We're all actors. We are all artists. And
I think it's a good point.
we're all beautiful, man. This life we have is an incredible life. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, this is incredible. And if we can help others who don't get to experience that, that's what we need to be doing. And I think that's what John illuminates. That's what you illuminate, Randy. That's what you're doing, Jay. And that's what it's all about. A community that supports love in life instead of evil and darkness.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the things I wanted to get back with Angela on, because at the end of this film, and I want to give it away, but at the end of this film, Angela has reached that arc point to where it is, she's more willing to get herself involved and really, really help. It almost to the degree verbalizes this to the point, but there's something that happens in the film and it's almost like a release. Is that what you felt on this as well? Is almost like this burden has been lifted, so to speak?
Definitely. I don't want to give any of the away, but definitely Christy goes through a lot, and you see it throughout the movie. And just when I was, especially the last few scenes, it was this true love and passion to save these kids that drove her to go, like to keep going. That's definitely what drove. It's this passion that has come out of her that you wouldn't expect her to have, because she shows off this tough side. But then again, from what I said before, it's the internal compassion that she has for people. And it was just seeing the movie, you'll understand as well. And the last couple of scenes, but definitely that's what I felt. Even as Angela, I felt that. And I tried to show it as much as I could with Christy as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think the other aspect I wanted to get back with, you on, John, because a lot of this came from Ronald Bernard opening up, from what my understanding is, and opening up about a lot of the dark side of Hollywood, so to speak. I didn't really know Ronald Bernard, but I've heard of him and his opening up on a lot of the dark side that really starts in depth in talking about a lot of the stuff with Roman Polanski and a lot of that stuff that really has gone on in Hollywood. Do you think, and I know that we've already kind of slightly touched on this, do you think that maybe, hopefully, if the social media gets involved with a lot of these things that we're doing right here, with some of the small Zoom broadcasting and some of the AM, FM radio stations and those type of interviews, do you think that maybe this opens the door for Hollywood to say, hey, maybe we take a second look at how we're doing what we're doing? And maybe it's time to maybe not close the door completely, because that's never going to happen no more on an independent type film, but maybe it's time to say, take a second look, correct?
Take a second look. What do you mean?
To the dark side of Hollywood, and maybe kind of shutting that down, or at least to a privacy standard, because I think it's a whole lot more open than people think.
Yeah. So what I believe about Hollywood is this. There are people like Joseph and Angela by the hundreds of thousands out here. Tens of thousands, conservatively. Filmmakers, producers, writers, actors, artists who are wanting to do their craft and don't want to be a part of any of this other bullshit. And I think what you're going to have is you'll have key disclosures in Hollywood, There will be a push like there was with Me Too to politicize, although the culpable parties will have a very hard time because they're also the ones that covered it up.
Right.
So there's a paradox for them. Ultimately, I think it's going to take everyone to reject these people working with them, because financially they'll be bankrupted by the fact that that's public. If you look at what happened to Kevin Spacey's movie or Harvey Weinstein's Miramax film, that's what will happen. You're going to get demands from the parents and the talent to kick out the parents who've sold their children into the pedophile networks at Disney and Nickelodeon. And that'll all come out when Dan Schneider has his crimes revealed in a court of law, with two of at least three women who have come forward. Two, actually could be a boy, but I definitely know there's two girls that are well-known names who have lawyered up over the last year. It's going to be a combination of financial and legal with face-saving PR for whatever they can, but ultimately it's the new ideas that will be able to come forward, because the inflationary way and the top-heavy way that this industry is run is consolidating and contracting at an accelerated rate due to the internet, not only of the human trafficking issue, which is a very small portion of it, but the fact that their hierarchies have become steeper and they've cut everybody below them out who's not like them. That's from people I know who are 40-year veterans who can't work with these people anymore because they don't care. They've given up on story. They're totally about money. They're totally about having people of their own kind in the higher echelons of power. And most of this other dark stuff from Hollywood is kept complete. It's like another layer of reality that doesn't exist here.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I guess I want to paint a really clear picture for people. Pedophilia is not out in the open in Hollywood, as insofar as it's displayed in front of you as you're walking around. But the people who are involved in this horrific crap have to be outed publicly, have to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, have to have all of their assets seized that are non-essential and liquidated and turned into a fund for the victims.
That's correct.
To help them heal. And then those people should be banned for life among any of us for any kind of reputation that they once held, because they held an on-camera persona that was perpetuated by a media industrial complex that turned a blind eye and participated in the cover-up of the human trafficking and worse out here.
And John, let me say this, and Jay knows this, where I'm headed with this, but this week, it's ironic, but this week, there's a lawyer, and she has a huge group for helping children. Mm-hmm. She's a very well-known lawyer. I've met her. We went to rallies together and everything else. But this lawyer, it turns out that she actually blurbed the book of a pedophile. And I don't throw that term around lightly. If a guy's a pedophile, and I say he's a pedophile, this guy's a pedophile because he was convicted by a jury. Okay, right. And it was of his own eight-year-old daughter who is autistic. The other one that they were supporting is a guy who was convicted right here in North Carolina of having sex with, well, actually, he pled guilty and took a 10-year sentence. Both of them got 10-year sentences. The other one he got a 37-year sentence. His daughter was 10. The other one, his daughter was 18 months old, and the other child was 2 years old. Now here's the deal. We brought this out because this is a lawyer who has a huge group on Facebook. She has a huge following. Saying that, we disagreed with the fact that she was giving support because she blurbed the guy's book. She obviously had read the book. It's not hearsay. He was actually found guilty. So were the other ones. But we outed them. And when we did, we had people coming at us. and accusing us of everything you could possibly think of. And these are people that are supposed to be trying to help the children like we are. We're Future of Our Children Video Network. We're out there to help the children, but we have people come out of nowhere, regular people right on up, and trying to, I don't want to say they attacked us, but they tried to disparage us. They tried to say, why don't you just not do that? Why can't we unite? And I'm like, I can't, it's not in me to unite with pedophiles and unite with people that support pedophiles or any other thing that's evil. And what's in us, and I kind of sense it in you, if you have a spirit of when you see injustice, you're going to point out the injustice. It doesn't matter if it's your buddy, doesn't matter if it's the one paying your paycheck, doesn't matter if it's your neighbor or the one you go to the club with or whatever. You're going to point it out. You can't help it. And that's what we're in. So have you faced that whenever you come out and you're doing these things? You're obviously making movies. So you're making movies, but what you're doing is also a slap in the face to some in the movie industry. So what kind of ramifications have you got? What kind of setbacks have you had because of it?
They ignore you. We invited all the major companies, Netflix, Hulu. I mean, I targeted specific individuals who got the emails and there were phone calls followed up 2 months in advance. It was crickets. I also, and I don't name names of the organizations because I don't know, right? I can't make an accusation against, but all of the human trafficking organizations out here that are advocates, none of them came and none of them responded.
Yeah,
The only ones that actually cared are the people who do not receive federal dollars and who work with actual victims.
Yep. I think you touched it right on the head right there. Yep.
That's the unfortunate part of this time. And I don't need to say this, but in terms of we don't have time to go through all of this, but it was once said that if the American people really understood what was going on in this country, they would have taken all of these people and hung them by the lamppost by now.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have, the best part about this is if you really look at it, the spirit of a child and the love that a child has and its creativity and its imagination is our natural state of being. And that is what it means to be born a human being and live in this time, to have that wonder and that curiosity and that creativity and that imagination. All of the people who are doing this crap don't have that. And in reality, there are very few of them compared to the masses and the majority of people out there. The only thing that they have been able to do is to seize the levers of power and the structures of power through their ruthless and sociopathic and psychopathic behavior, while fooling us against our own best interest in terms of what is human in all of us: trust, compassion, empathy, honesty, love, which all of what they lack but yet signal to us. So it's like this illusion of reality that's kind of placed over us, where we have a legal system that's illegal. We have a banking system that's a casino. And you just start going down the list, and what you come to the understanding is that all of these people, whether it's not a conspiracy from the charitable organization all the way up to, the IMF, they're not calling and talking to each other. It's like the CEO at a bank. He or she has the vision, implements the plan through the executives disseminate that part of that plan and that information down to the various departments of what their role is and what the goals and objectives are. And the employees who are needing a paycheck to support their families or their lifestyles or whatever their ambitions are in life are working to perform those tasks. That's exactly how this whole thing works. And it's not a conspiracy, and that's how everything actually works. That's how things get done. So
that's the
dictating everything.
Right, and that's the precipice of what you're talking about. Really, is we're talking about federal funding from Social Security that funds a lot of these things. When we're talking about Title 4D, Title 4E, we go on down the list of all of these people, and a lot of the people out there don't understand that Title 4D and Title 4E are incentive-based pay for these people to take children out of homes.
Right.
That is what it is.
And even with the best intentions too. It's all of this, you take very sincere people, like I would be a very sincere person, to go before Congress or a local authority and tell them what I believe and what I think needs to be done. And I could be an activist in my community, and and I'm not discouraging any of this. I'm just saying what you're talking about is you run up against this invisible wall that is all there to contain you in this reality TV show that we live in.
Exactly. 100%.
And the only way that we have right now, I think, is this dialogue right now is not possible without the internet and people coming together and talking about these things. This wouldn't have been possible 4 or 5 years ago.
Exactly.
No, I agree. And that's a big thing I want to ask you about right there, John, is this. Number one, the power of social media, I believe, is huge. It's something that wasn't there before. There are things now that are being scanned in and they're made public. If you can get in there and dig, it's not that hard. You just kind of get used to doing it. So it's a powerful tool that we can use. Now, you can watch cat videos on YouTube and laugh all day, or you can be very serious and dedicated and get in there and dig. But what you're saying is the truth. And we have a lot of people that tell us with the DSS movement, the family court movement, it's identical to what you're speaking about, whether it's and one of my first jobs is I was a stockbroker for a year. I hated it. I was in DC working on Vermont Avenue. I absolutely hated it. So I went on to do some other things. But in the realm of it, all of this plethora of money comes in. And when you said the ones that you can't trust are the ones, or the only ones you can trust are the ones not receiving federal money. Now, why is that important? We have watched it, and it doesn't matter. And there are 501c3 nonprofits that are very profitable, and we have watched them. And they're doing things in the name of saving the child. They're doing it in the name of helping humanity. And when you delve inside, and then they won't give you their records, they won't give you their financials, they won't give you their bylaws, but they're run 100% on public funding. You ran, and that's what started mine. Is an article came out with me in it, and it was actually on TV, a breaking news story. And it was $750,000 that a particular organization had squandered, but it was federal money. It was coming in from HUD, and you have HUD, NAHASTA, Section 8. You have all of the USDA is another big one. I'm telling you right now, you can believe this. It doesn't seem like United States Department of Agriculture would be a plethora of money going around, but USDA is the very organization that funds social services. It really does. In Sampson County, North Carolina, if you're going to make a complaint, you got to go to USDA. So there's ways that money is coming in that nobody would look at. Why would you look at a farmer? Why would you look at the farm bill? And if you don't get down and dig into the weeds, and sometimes you run across things that are of no value, but you got to go down in there and dig in them. But what is your, I guess I'm going around and around on this, but we believe just exactly like you do. And the point I'm trying to get to is when people say, well, the reason it's not working, the system is broken. But I'm telling you, I'm agreeing with you. And if I'm not misunderstanding you, you're saying the same thing I am, John. And that's that the system is not broken. The system is running like a well-oiled machine, exactly the way it was intended to run and the way that it was built in the first place.
Yeah, I think they've always, if you go back to the formation of the central bank, and we don't need to have a conversation on that, there was an emergency power that was in the government to centralize banks for the purpose of avoiding a new currency crisis in the United States, which they had gone through in previous years since the Civil War. But it was 9 men who conspired to meet in secrecy at Hilton Head, Jekyll Island. Sorry, I think it was Jekyll Island, to use that legislation and that emergency power to hijack the levers of control and power over to their side. So what they do is they create crisis in order to make opportunity for their plans. That's the only way that they can operate in. They have to have a crisis of a situation in order to convince the public that they need them in order to enact these powers. So for our, yes, it's true, but they can be taken back by the people, because I don't want people to think that we have to throw all of this away. You know, the belief in our institutions, of our law, those are principles that are true. And we need brave and courageous men and women who are willing to follow those, as flawed as they may be personally. They live and are guided by those principles for which they are a citizen under.
That's
and
correct.
I say this again, is that when you look at the masses of people versus the masses of corruption, while the corruption is big and it's huge and it's everywhere you look, it's only really controlled by a small group of people. And most everybody else is just adapting to that for which has been put over them. So it's really not all of us being complicit in it, or all of those people being complicit in the corruption. There are people inside, as was me in banking. I worked in a bank for 13 years. I tried to help my colleagues. I tried to save money for the bank. I tried to do all sorts of things that would, and they rewarded me for them. So there's a psychological level to all of this, which is normal and healthy, which is to help people, which is to reward people based on doing good things that the system rewards them for. The issue is that when you put corrupt people at the top to institute and implement the policies and the rules and the laws, that individual, who they are, will attract others like them, who then follow those procedures and the rules and those structures.
Absolutely, 100%.
We have to look at this from, and I do want to make this kind of like a full circle, because when I talk about this, I talk about child abuse being the root of all evil in the world. It's not only the act of hurting the child, it's the adult that child will become.
That's right.
And when Joseph was talking about Ronald Bernard's testimony, part of it was that he was abused as a child so badly that he blacked out, and he hated all life. He wanted to get back at hurting somebody, and he didn't care that there were innocent people. This is a person who was making money. This is a person who had a business. This is a person who was educated. So they come in all shapes and sizes, colors, races, genders, ethnicities, countries. When you introduce child abuse into the life of a child, and to the severity, degree, and frequency that you do that, you can create a Hitler.
Yeah.
Hitler was beaten every single day of his life by his stepfather and almost killed twice. And his grandmother told him he was shit as an artist.
Yeah.
He had no one to care for him. That's an extreme case, but it's the most well-documented that we have. When you look at child rearing and mortality rates 100, 200 years ago in Bavaria, you see a high correlation between child abuse and violence, things that today, I mean, unquestionable behavior that we would imprison and possibly even execute some people for what they did to children back then, and we're able to do. The good news is that our consciousness has increased so much that we now know that within 18 months, a child has a sense of whether or not he or she is a positive or negative self-worth of him or herself.
Yeah.
We also know more about the brain today than ever before. So I want to encourage your audience and the people to understand that the power is within you and the people immediately around you and the people that you affect, because every single child in your periphery who you give love to, you are depositing a piece of gold in the bank for their future. You don't know what that act of love and care can do, or just the attention that you are paying when something else is distracting you, to focus and give your attention to that child. Because that is the difference between choices and outcomes that may happen late, that they will be faced with later. And when they didn't have anybody to turn to, they would turn to someone who does give them the opportunity. And the odds are that that person a child has exhausted all of its peers and all of its family and turns to outside strangers, they are more susceptible, the most susceptible to human trafficking. They're the most susceptible to rape, the most susceptible to violence. And then they can also become that as well. So that's the larger point of what I wanted to, what motivated me to say this was everything we were talking about, because ultimately everybody goes, what can I do? I can't stop this out here. That's true. That part is true. You can take shots at it, but what we all have to do is do what we can to lift our lives up and the people around us lives up through knowledge and growing together.
Yeah,
this is how
100%. I think that you're right in everything that you said, because I mean, when we've done investigations on a lot of this stuff, we look back at the mass suicides. I believe that there was only one of the mass shootings and mass suicides that was not from a broken family or home. When you look at a lot of the serial killers out there, most of them come from broken homes and broken families. And that really relates to a lot of the things that we're talking about. And I want to move on here to, because we're running out of time with you guys, but I wanted to ask all of you individually, what impact do you hope that the viewers will take away from this movie after watching the film? And I can start with Angela. I think I got there. Let me unmute you.
You got to take your mic off.
There you go.
The impact on the viewers, you said?
Yeah. What impact do you hope that the viewers will take away from this film after watching it?
I guess just they have to take it with a grain of salt, for sure. Because like I said before, if I hope it would open their minds and their hearts and their eyes to maybe not, like, it's hard to say, oh, I'm gonna help them and I don't know what way, but films like this is a good starting point. And I know social media is the next thing that everyone is on, and if one voice goes out there, someone's gonna hear it, someone's gonna either retweet it, reshare it, post it, and then you just create this mass voice of people. And I hope that's what this movie impacts, because it's strong. It has motive to help the world. Even if it's just one movie, there's definitely more movies out there in Hollywood that are kind of touching on the subject, but of course in a more Hollywood way. But they're not treated in a sense, they're just glanced over and say, oh, what a good movie. Let's move on. Let's do the next one, whatever. But this one, I feel that it has potential to impact more lives if we had it in schools, or just to even like go to a high school, say this is a film that we're going to watch today, and it just touches upon these things, and then have a discussion. Because once you open people's minds, especially if you start it in schools, like high schools, they're going to grow up knowing that, okay, this is happening. What should we do? How shall we fix it? Exactly. And even when I was in Cyprus during the summer last year, I tried to get a few people on board to even view it at my hometown or my school. And it was shut down. And it's not just America, it's all over. People don't want to see reality like right in the eye. They don't want to, they're scared.
Exactly.
And I feel if this movie can go all sorts of different ways to impact people's lives.
Absolutely. Joseph, your thoughts?
When I'm not sure if it was you or if it was Randy, but you talked about Angela's emotional beat at the end. I think it was you, actually.
Yeah.
And what she does is a metaphor. And it's a metaphor that Edgar wrote in the script.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to help. I will help. And whether that is vocal, whether that is getting involved, whether that is seeing a situation and saying, hey, stop that, right? It means we got to step out of our comfort zone and protect those who need to be protected. And it's easier to sit in our own little world and eat dinner and sit around and watch TV. But the key is that there's some bad stuff out there, and it will affect us unless we see it, identify it, and make whatever moves we can make to try to change it. And it is resolution based, as John said earlier. So I think the movie opens that up, and I think that's the message. I will help, right, John? I think it's I will help. So
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Well, to both Angela and Joseph's credit, they played a major part in the vision of this movie. And so when one of the greatest things for me as a producer, at least in this time of my life that I've experienced, is when I read a script and I go on that journey to make it, and I start seeing the faces come into the ones that are going to be the characters and the ones that are going to be our crew. And so I get excited about it. But the emotional journey is the one that arrives on the night of the premiere, where you have all these people in there. And you see this spirit, this goodwill that comes through in the words on the page when you started the journey to the fruition of the sharing that occurs. And so my hope is that when people see our films and see a child's voice specifically, they find whatever it is within themselves that they wish to do that is agreeable to them, rather than out of obligation for something that is not true for them. And that also may mean that it could be planting a seed in someone that 10 years down the road will manifest, and you don't know what those little pebbles you're throwing in the lake create ripples do later on, after that rock is sunk to the bottom, but the waves continue. And so that's what I hope for our movie, that people walk away knowing that they saw something that was true, and it inspires in them whatever is true in them to come forward.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I want to, before we get into the kind of the endings here of what we're talking, I want to show this to the people here real quick, because I think this is fantastically put together. This is Angela's site out here. So if you see Angela Mavropoulos, Angela's World or Angie's World.info, go out there, check her out. She is an actor, a model, a musician. She's just got so much stuff going on as well. And Joseph, I know that you've got some projects, and Angela, I want to give you an opportunity first to point out some projects you're working on. Joseph, some projects you're working on, and John, you can fill us in on some of the other projects you have coming up as well. Go ahead, Angela.
I just actually came back from Cyprus filming a USC film. It was a short thesis film, and I knew the director, and he reached out to me, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I actually did script supervising on the film, because it was all in Greek, and he needed someone to talk to the editor in English, because he's American, and then try and figure everything out. And currently I'm working on a short film of another friend that I made over the years here, which is, I'm not sure when it's coming out, because I haven't actually started filming on it yet. But hopefully in August, we're gonna get some rehearsals going, and it's about an Uber driver that loses his wife, and there's a lot of flashbacks, and I play the wife. But it's darker. It's way darker. There's a lot of layers there. I just don't want to ruin anything.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I have a couple of songs coming out hopefully soon. And of course, they're going to be published on my website and then my SoundCloud. So yeah.
Awesome. Great. Joseph, you the projects you're working on right now?
Well, I just finished a bunch. I went through a period here. I was playing a lot of priests. So just did that movie about the Guatemalan immigrant. I played a priest. It was all in Spanish. And I was a priest in San Luis Potosi. Then I just finished moving to doing pretty much what the government does, just to sustain fake reality for all the parishioners. And then I just shot a horror movie up in Toronto a week and a half ago called Necropolis Legion. Let's see what else. Just did an Adam Lambert music video. Just worked with Noah Dillon on another music video where I played a trumpet. Let's see what else. And I think that's it. I did 5 in 10 days. My memory's a little bit shot here right now, but I'm having a blast, man. I'm having a blast. Having a blast. I'm a kid, a little kid.
John, what are the projects you're working on at the present time?
Well, I want to mention one thing about Angela, and this is to encourage anybody who has a dream. Angela submitted for this film without a professional reel, and I think you had a headshot, Angela, but she had only a video of herself on a GoPro and a jet ski. And I took a look at it and I clicked through it and I went to her YouTube channel, and that's when I found that she was a musician, and she sang this beautiful song with just an acoustic guitar, and I could feel who she was, at least in the way she was singing, and that's why I brought her in to audition. So you never know. You have to put yourself out there, as flawed or as imperfect as it is, and as humiliating as she thinks it is, and know that somebody might see something there and give you the opportunity, and things line up. Right now we're working on a micro budget indie. It's called Prime of My Life. That one we're going to do probably next year. Right now Edgar is writing a cable miniseries, a massive project, way bigger than anything we've ever done, called The Last Aztec Emperor. And it is the story of Cuauhtemoc at 23, who had to take over for the Aztec Empire as Cortez was mounting his surge into the city of 1 million people on a lake where Mexico City is today. They had pyramids that were bigger than Egypt. The largest city in the world in London was 40,000 people. Here was 1 million. And it is about two worlds colliding, a psychedelic world of crazy beliefs in gods, but rooted in divine principles, and the savagery. But it wasn't all simplistic. It was strokes of luck and bad just coincidences of untold catastrophe that came, and it shows the devastation where in 10 years Mexico's population was reduced by 90% down to less than 1 million. And it's really the spirit of the film, as though that it's never giving up and rising again, and always to continue to fight for the things that you love in the face of uncertainty. So we're going to do those two. And then I don't know what else, something else might come across our periphery, but we're just going with the flow. We would love to do a follow-up sequel to A Child's Voice with Angela and maybe Joseph. I don't know.
Oh, I died. I can't come back.
No, I know, but I'm saying, but what I'm saying is that we feel that the film is an opening. It is the beginning of the conversation.
Exactly.
And with all of our films, what we think is appropriate is that at a later time, when there is a story that inspires us, we'll totally go full blast with it. But the last thing I want to say is that our future plans are to create a company called No Restriction Studios, which is a 21st century studio with a sustainability and scalability model that is contemporary for today's time. And we want to be able to find voices, artists that are undiscovered, that would not have the opportunity to work in Hollywood. We want to raise the money for them, finance their movies, and produce their first features to get their work out there. So that's
Yeah.
the long-term plan for us.
And I think that's fantastic because I know that even in this movement, I think there's a lot of stories that need to come out. I mean, I know that Neil Shelton has been looking for a producer, already has his books out. He works with us greatly. Great guy. I know that he's looking for a producer to put some things out. So we'll be in contact with you for sure. I definitely want to be in contact with you, Joseph, and you, Angela, because I think your careers are just taking off still. I really think that you're headed in the right direction, doing amazing things, and we want to have you on whenever you have a new project. We would love to have you on. Doesn't have to be about this stuff. We can just promote your show and what you're doing out there. So anytime you folks are more than welcome to come out. And I want to give the floor over to Randy Davis because normally I forget this part because Randy loves to do something, and I'm going to have him take the floor.
Yeah, and look at here, I got a plug too. I got a plug to Croatan Indians because I'm a Croatan Indian, and that's the story that I'm writing is the Croatan Indian. Eva Gardner was part Croatan Indian. And I think it's a story. That's my birth certificate, Croatan Indian, Native American, but it's kind of like we've been lost. So I'm plugging that. But the other part is always on these shows, guys. And believe me, I have went and court watched, been in court proceedings where they would ask a mother, what does rev it up mean? Because that's the way we always do the little videos and we do the undercover stuff, and it's Team Rev It Up, www.teamrevitup.com. But I always, whether it was John Schneider that was on, Dukes of Hazzard, he was on, Wendy Reardon. Also, we had a guy too, and it slipped my mind until we were talking here, but the serial killer, John Wayne Gacy, the guy who dressed up like a clown. Well, that guy had got this little boy. He had got this little boy in a bathroom, got him hemmed up in a department store and raped him. And he got loose. He got loose from this guy, but it changed his life and really almost destroyed him. He turned to all sorts of things in his life, but he overcame it. But we had him on, and every one of them, every one of our guests have always said rev it up, because rev it up means motivated. You know, I've watched as a judge question Melissa McDonald, what does rev it up mean? Well, it means motivated. It means juiced, jazzed. You know, you wake up every day with a new opportunity. Yesterday is gone. You have a new opportunity to start all over. So we always get our guests to give us their very, very best, most enthusiastic, actor-laden rev it up so that we have it for our clips.
All right, so we'll start, guys. Rev it up.
Rev it up.
Rev it up.
Rev it up. Yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so
Thank
you got
you
to hear
guys
from
so much.
all of them now. Awesome. So we got Rev It Up all over the place. Team Rev It Up. Thank you guys so very, very much for coming on. And I'm going to be in contact with each of you. I got to figure out a way to get in contact with you, Angie, and Joseph, and I'll do that after the show here. But thank you so much. And John, thank you so much for setting this up and spending your own money to put out this type of a film. Thank you so much.
Guys, it's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
You guys very much. A pleasure. John,
All right, so we will we'll let these guys go, and thank you so much for your time, folks. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good
Thank
day.
you.
All right.
Right.
There we go. Okay. All right, so lots of stuff. I don't know if I maybe removed Randy. I don't know here. Hopefully I didn't. Well, hopefully Randy will come back in. Hopefully I did not remove him. But amazing stuff tonight here. And yeah, it looks like I've got him here, promote the panelist. But amazing stuff tonight. And I'm bringing Randy back in here. I don't know, maybe I deleted him on accident here. But yeah, amazing stuff from this movie, A Child's Voice. If you are going through a situation where you know that maybe you're going through a child trafficking situation, if you're going through a foster care situation, those kind of things, we are here to be a sounding board and to help you any way that we possibly can. Now, do we want all your cases? Absolutely not. That's not what we're here for, but we are here to assist in any way that we possibly can. Okay, so definitely give us a contact after the show. We'd love to be in contact with you, see what we can do to help out. Also, we definitely want you to check out www.teamrevitup.com. There's going to be more information on that. And like we said, we're going to put together some snippets of information that really can help you on your cases, things you're going through, that you thought there was no assistance anywhere else. The first thing you looked at was the Father's Rights Movement, and you didn't go any further on any other page because you didn't know where to go, who to turn to. Team Rev It Up is going to be here to do everything that we can in our power to give you that assistance that we can by going out there. So excellent show, Randy. What do you think?
Man, I'm blown away. I like it. Look, I'm not an artist. Okay, there's that. Joseph said, "Oh, everybody's an artist." You're not. I'm not an artist. These guys think differently. They're able to make things happen in a realm where you don't think about, but you watch it, and after it's together, you're like, "Wow, I can't believe they did that." And they bring things to life. And I believe the human trafficking, the child trafficking, I wish that they had known more about the effects of DSS and foster care and the impact that it has on child trafficking. But this is what I want to say. What the people should take away from this is this. And I even put a quote from the Bible up there because some of our detractors seem to be saying that, I'm a Luciferian, evidently eating babies and stuff. Well, the thing is, we have victories. We posted a North Carolina Court of Appeals opinion, and that Court of Appeals opinion was a vacation of an order, a bad order that I testified in that case. I was involved heavily in that case, and that's a victory. And the reason I posted the scripture I did, and it's where Jesus was healing. He was healing the demonic man, the deaf man, the mute man, the blind man. And they came up, and what did they accuse him of? The Sadducees and the Pharisees, according to scripture. They accused him of doing so in the name of Beelzebub. And Beelzebub is Lucifer, Satan, the Lord of the Flies is really what it means. But it's the devil. Okay. And whenever they did, he said a simple thing because he understood their thinking. That's the way the Bible says it. He understood their thinking, but he said, how do you say that I do this and I throw out, I cast out and I destroy the enemy if I am the enemy? Because surely a house divided against itself is going to fall. In other words, why would Satan do away with Satan? So for those that are saying, well, God, they're child traffickers, they're working for DSS, Karen Pettit-Materna, the GAL, she's helping DSS. They're all child trafficking. It's insane. Why is it insane? Because we get victories against DSS. We have fought against DSS, not against everybody in DSS, but when DSS is wrong, we point it out and we do our best to assist, and we win against DSS. If we worked for DSS, whether it was for cigarettes or it was for glory, or it was for whatever other crazy foolishness these people are saying, that does not add up. There's not pictures of me and Jay Moss out there with Bill Clinton and Al Gore. There's Connie Regley out there with them. There's not us. And then we get blamed because we pointed out a thing. And I'm just telling you, this week has been an interesting week, but we've had far more support for pointing out the fact that Family Forward Project has pedophiles in it and that the things that they're doing are not making any sense. It's not something that we wanted to do. And I was very hesitant to do it. But whenever they started gouging at us and sending pedophiles and people that have abused their children as trolls to come at us from Fran, David Jose, Francesca Amata Banfield, David Jose, Jamie Johnson, all of these creatures coming after us, and a bunch of them out of Family Forward Project coming after us, deleting us, blocking us. That's just because they don't like the truth. It's not because we're devils. It's not because there's something wrong. And folks, I'm telling you, anything the truth can destroy should be destroyed. The truth will not destroy something good. It will never destroy something good. And light has nothing to do with darkness. You cannot affiliate, associate, support, or condone that which you are fighting in DSS simply because it's in your group. Well, I'm part of a bigger group because I'm on the team. It's okay if my shortstop is abusing children. No, it's not. If we got to lose the shortstop, he got to go. Maybe the pitcher, maybe the quarterback, doesn't matter. I'm telling you right now, overall, in the long run, if you are on a team where a leader in that team, and Family Forward got a lot of great members in it. Love the members. It's not about that. But the admins and the heads of fish right from the head down, they don't know. And they're defending that. I understand that. Some of my very own friends. But that's what I take away from this is these people, why would we bring a show to you on child trafficking if we're child traffickers? It doesn't make sense. Add it up. And we're not sitting here saying we know people that are making movies on child trafficking. Like they come up with stuff. David Ose does a video every day swearing nobody else ever produces any evidence or any victory. And he's the one that never produces any evidence or any victory. They always accuse you of that. Right now, Jay, David Ose is spinning a whim out there that the government has somehow secretly funneled this idiot. This egg-headed bastard has somehow gotten a list from the FBI, government, somebody, of all of these people that are involved with DSS, and we're all on it, of course.
Well, of course.
List, and who's going to send that idiot a list from the government? He pistol whipped his own child. We've got the information on it. He says, I don't show it. We're getting ready to show it. The Watchman will show it. So all of this stuff that this idiot is coming out with, and I'm going to show it with his own habeas corpus. I'm going to show it in his own writing. What happened? You can read between the lines and see it. So David Ose, when you see this, just know that's what I'm going to use along with messages that you sent one of our colleagues where you didn't want to go to court because you were afraid of criminal charges. You know what I've got. That's why you're scrambling. But people, listen, you can keep going over there. We're not going to beat a dead horse about these people every time. We're going to bring you content. We're going to load up www.teamrevitup.com with good, viable information. We will make sure that the parents, it's a PPH, a permanency planning hearing, it's parental report for court. It will work with whatever court you're going to deal with custody. It's a fill in the blank. It's not an affidavit that's crazy. It's not. It's just your story, your timeline, and your evidence gets attached to it, and we'll show you how to enter it into a court. That's up to you whether you enter it into a court, but you fill it out yourself. We don't do it for you. We don't advise you. We don't give legal advice. But I'm telling you, we're bringing change, damn it. And I'm tired of being called Illuminati, baby eater, high mason, whatever it is they want to say. This stuff's got to come to an end. And if you believe that, just get your ass off my page. I don't need you. I really don't. I don't want you. I don't need you. And nobody's begging for your cases. Nobody don't want your cases. Sometimes we stumble along some that are so good we do them, but that's the only way that we do them.
Yep.
That's
And I would say the other thing is that form that Randy is talking about, please, when you go to enter your information, type it. Please do not write it in crayon. Please do not write it in crayon. It does not work that way. Okay.
Oh,
and make it legible, at least if you're going to handwrite it and do it with a pen. I don't know.
Spell check. For God's sakes, use punctuation and spell check.
But, you know, we'll bring you all of these things. And why are we going to bring you these things? Is it because we're bad guys? Is it because we're just trying to pick on people or divide a movement like Jennifer Wynn has said? No, it's not. It's because this movement will never be taken seriously. Just like John had indicated to you, this movement will never be taken seriously unless you get rid of the riffraff that is saying these crazy things that legislators will never buy into, never be a part of. And you come to the realization that you have to use logic, reasoning, and you have to do things on a level in which you are asking someone for their help. When you go in to ask somebody for their help in their office, you have to be gracious, you have to be honest, you have to be trustworthy enough for them to give you that help. Okay, so don't go into these legislators' office touting all of your constitutional rights and how they've been violated. Go in there with solutions to the
Absolutely.
problem.
And Jay, I want to say this too. Kathleen Arthur and Terry LaPointe, Whitney Manning, and a lot of others are in DC this weekend or this week. They're there. They're talking before senators. They're talking to legislators. And it's at the Whistleblower Summit this week. So I want to say congratulations and rev it up to them, because that is a big deal. And believe me, I've bumped heads with Terry LaPointe before. But it doesn't matter. What she's doing is right. What she's doing there right now is correct. And we give credit where credit's due. So all of you out there need to know that they're there. Give them your support and just hang tough. Don't give up. Don't jump off the wagon because you think that it's an unbeatable monster you're up against. It's Goliath, but you can beat him. You can beat Goliath. Just stay strong and don't get stupid.
Oh, that's absolutely right. And we'll take a few more minutes because honestly, I think that there's a lot that's going around, a lot that's being said, and we really, and like I said, we really don't necessarily like to dive into a whole lot of these crazy things that are going on within a movement. But I'll tell you, I mean, honestly, I've been berated by Raymond and Amelia Schwab. I've been berated by Jennifer Wynn, who are all buddies with Connie Reguli or whatever, however she wants to pronounce her name. Honestly, the only thing that we have done was reveal actual factual articles that are out there for you to read by every major source that we had available to us. We've revealed court documents. We've revealed all of these particular things. Why? Are we trying to divide a movement? No. We're trying to clean up the garbage. Look, people, if there's a heap of garbage in your house, there's a lot of people that are under the understanding or under the beliefs that will say, oh, the garbage will take itself out. No, the garbage never takes itself out. It doesn't magically grow legs. You have to realize that the garbage is stinking up your house. Get over there, put the trash bag, take the trash bag out of the trash can and walk it out to the yard so it can be taken by the trash man. That's how it works. Otherwise, it will stink up your entire house. Your house will smell like moldy old ass, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's just the way things are. And that's why we've said these things. And it's not because we're trying to divide a movement. Look, Randy and I will tell you both, it is the least favorite thing that we have to do is to have to come out on anyone, period. We hate doing it. We absolutely hate doing it with a passion. But we sat on Connie Reguli's information for months, and said, no, we don't want to do this. We don't want to touch it. And honestly, some of this information that I've been sitting on it for over a year. I have a 16 gigabyte flash drive full of information on Connie Reguli alone. And
yep. And Jay will tell y'all, look, this isn't something that we just decided to do. Hey, let's go pick somebody. There were people that are clients, ex-clients, people who have sent Connie money and they feel like they were ripped off. You know what? It needs to be aired out. And then you get the whole situation where now you have a son-in-law involved. You have somebody claiming that they're alienated by Connie. I don't know. But then you got the pictures of her and talking about the Americans and Safe Family Act, Adoption to Safe Family Act.
Adoption to Safe Family
I mean,
Act, yeah.
What in the world? She's talking about that while she's in a picture with Bill Clinton. I don't know. I don't know what she did there. I don't know what she had to do with that. But what I'm telling you is this: if it were any one of us, you'd be pointing the fingers at us. That's all there is to it. I mean, I've got criticized this week because I commented in a comment on a post where there was a girl there that they said she was a convicted child trafficker. Turns out all of that was dismissed. It was all bogus against the girl. She hadn't done anything wrong, but I was being called a pedophile or a trafficker because of that. That's how ridiculous they are. And then they actually have pedophiles and women showing their rear end in Family Forward Project. Look, here's the bottom line. I'm just going to say this like it is. I like Connie. Connie called Melissa whenever I was dying. I was dead. I was in a coma. Well, she contacted her. That meant a lot to me. I like her as a person. What I'm looking at and judging is a business situation, a legal issue where I'm telling you, I don't know of any attorney who would tell you to go out and put your stuff all over Facebook. And I'm watching Connie do it with her case and her client's case. And there was impropriety some way or another with a court order that was violated, and a child was not taken where they needed to be in violation of a court order. I don't know how that's going to play out for her. I really don't. I don't see the information. I'm not an attorney. But once we see it, we can make a better judgment call on it. But I would tell you this. There's no way, if I were advocating for you and helping you, that I would agree with you doing what Connie's doing, and she's a lawyer. That's just my opinion. That's Randy. That doesn't mean that you're wrong out there. So if you're my friends, don't send me hate mail. Why ain't you supporting Connie? Why are you downing Connie? I'm not downing Connie. I'm just downing what I'm seeing there, because in my eyes, that is unbelievable. That is incredible that anyone would do what I'm watching her do. And when you couple that with David Shore, she blurbed his book. He's a pedophile, convicted one. If you blurb a book, you read the book. If you read that book and Connie blurbed it as though she read it, then you knew he did it. You knew he was convicted of doing it. I'm just saying, folks, it doesn't matter us where you go, where you don't go. But the thing is, we always end up the ones that get the calls from you when your cases went south. We've watched this situation this week. Lena Willis, yesterday, Arizona case, Lena Willis. She was taught and prepped and coerced by Fran, Jose, and David Strait, and Jamie Johnson to use that affidavit. Now, let's just say this. I don't know what the affidavit did or didn't do, but I can tell you this. It cost her all of her visits. They're calling for psychological evaluations. U.S. Marshals or FBI have shown up at her house for the arrest. She's now looking at a maximum sentence of 48 years in prison, and yesterday was her TPR hearing. So if that's the benefit of filing the affidavit, do you really want to do it? And she's getting cut off from all correspondence. She's gag ordered. She's all sorts of stuff now. So that's what that bad advice does in real time. Look at Arlena Willis and make your decision. If that's who you want to be and how you want your case to go, then go right ahead and do it. But that's the only thing we're saying is when we see something, we say something. The watchman blows the trumpet. We sound that trumpet. Now, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, the blood's on your hands. It's your case. It's your children. It's your life. It's not going to affect us one way or the other, except that later you will be calling us. I'll assure you.
Absolutely, 100%. I think that, there's a rational process, and we talked about this, even with people who are out there in Hollywood are telling you, look, use rationalization, use logic, use reasoning. Come up with an actual game plan when it comes to solution-based thinking. Walk into your legislator's office with an actual solution to a problem. Those things will go a long way in getting these things done in this movement, rather than going to a Facebook site, no matter what it is, it's Family Forward Project or whoever it is. And if you're in there and all you're doing is bitching, moaning, complaining, nothing will change. You need to start talking about contacting your legislators, going to these issues in DC, going to these whistleblower meetings, being a part of anything in your local community to change things. When it comes down to your kids, or even maybe if you don't have kids, treat all of these children with respect and understand that they will grow up and become whatever you put in their minds to become. That is just how things work, is that they become whatever you put into them. Okay, if that's an effort, if that's teaching them how to be patient, how to be kind, how to be respectful, that's what's going to come out of them. If you teach them about how to be hateful and load a weapon in front of other children, that's what's going to happen in the end too. Okay, that's why we say what we say, is we're trying to save children's lives out here. Okay, so we're going to sign off for this evening. We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Share this everywhere you can. We want to get these actors and this movie as much publicity as we possibly can. It's a child's voice that's out there. It is on Amazon Prime, and it's also on their website. And if you're out there, it's No Restrictions Entertainment. If you type that in, it'll come up to rent for 72 hours. It's $3.99. If you want to buy it, it's $9.99. If you want to go out there to Amazon Prime, it's just your Amazon Prime membership, and then you'll be able to watch it. It's an amazing movie. It will change your perspective. It will change your life. And as we've always said, every single week by signing off here, you are important, you are loved, you are cared about. God bless, and good night, folks.
Rev it up.